Welcome back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. That's all the energy I have for you because in this video, I'm recording a recap of the most chaotic, stressful, triggering thing I have watched maybe ever. And I used to watch Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, so for this to be like on equal footing with that level of chaos and what just happenedness, like, so I'm talking about Malcolm and Marie. This is a Netflix movie that we've been waiting for a while. It stars John David Washington, who just beautiful gift of a man who came from two beautiful black people. Just, oof. You know how you see some people and you like, God really did his thing with that face. Like, a face. Just good features right there. And Zendaya, again, a face. Everyone has been waiting for this movie because they filmed it during the pandemic. And it's, you know, it looked artsy anyway because it was like black and white. But it was just like, it's Zendaya and it's, you know, John David, like, we have to see this movie. And I watched it not even an hour ago, and I don't know what to do with my life now. I feel changed. I feel raw. I feel shook. And I have questions. Chief among them, why? So, quick Google search. I'm not the only person who's confused. And let me just preface this by saying, I'm not a cinephile. I feel much more comfortable reviewing TV shows than I do movies, because people make movies into this art form that I find actually really intimidating. I don't feel like I'm qualified to speak about it enough, so I like to review TV, okay? I'm not a cinephile. I'm a whore for good photography, for good cinematography, a good set design, good costuming. They brought that. They had that in spades. I have never wanted to see an extra so badly in my life just to cut the tension. This was, I felt like I was at someone's home and they were having a private argument within their family that I shouldn't have been privy to. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna let you guys handle this and I'm gonna go. And they were like, no, 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 you stay. I felt like I was being held emotional hostage by this movie, but I couldn't look away because I needed to know how it ended. And I still don't understand how it ended. So here's the premise. So Malcolm is a director who thinks that he has just gotten his big break, right? He and his partner, Marie, arrive in this really cool home that's in this very isolated area. So for a minute, I was like, is this about to turn into a horror movie? Because I'm not in the mood to see a slasher film, right? Just because it was so secluded, right? And they've just come home from like a screening or a premiere of his new movie, which is about a woman who is a recovering addict. And we find out later in the movie that Marie herself is or was a recovering addict. And he's drunk, he's on, you know, cloud nine because he's gotten positive feedback and positive reviews about this movie. And Marie is kind of uninterested. He's way more excited than she is. And I also just want to take a moment to acknowledge the unsung hero of this movie, which was her dress. Hello. Sent it my way in a few months. This movie is basically an extended argument that never stops happening because when he gave his acceptance speech or his speech about the movie, you know, thanking people for coming, he did not thank her. That is at the root of this ongoing argument. The argument starts with her not wanting to admit that she's angry. Why do we do that? Why do we want to pretend that we're not angry when we are? It's okay to be angry. It's a human emotion. It's the way that you express it that calls things into question. Okay, so again, at the crux of this argument, he did not thank her, which speaks to the larger issue in their relationship that she does not feel appreciated. She feels taken for granted, right? Okay. This is where shit got real, because I have witnessed a married couple fight in this way, where they are ripping each other to shreds, and you want so badly to interject and to be like, I don't think you know what you're saying. I don't think that you want to be saying this to this person that you care about right now, because you're gonna say some shit that you can't take back. They were saying shit to each other that they could not take back. Now, what I found really fascinating about the conversation that they were having is that it was one of those break down the fourth wall kinds of things, where the director and writer, I think I just read his name is Steve Levson. This is actually a white man who was speaking through a black director, and it really felt like this is some shit that a black director has been wanting to say for a really long time about, I want to just create art and have my art looked at without it being politicized, just on the strength of me being a black man. And why does everything that I create have to automatically be politicized because I'm black and because I have a black character? I will say this is something that I think about quite often as a creator. Obviously, I'm not making movies, but as a creator, as a writer, as a podcast host, as a YouTube person, I think all the time about how we can't really separate the art from the artist when it comes to race. Nothing that I create is going to be from a vantage point that is not reflective of my experience as a black person. Sometimes you can feel crippled by that because you just want to experience things for what they are. I said this in my previous video about Bridgerton. I really wanted to just enjoy the show, but because I'm a black woman, I can't watch or approach or interact with anything without my vantage point or my experience being a part of how I assess what I'm taking in. And so there's this, he talks about critics don't, at one point he's super excited because the critics really seem to be very into it, and then he's making fun of the critics because they're kind of pandering to him because he's black, and then critics don't know what they're talking about, and he himself is swinging on this pendulum of emotions between almost imposter syndrome and then also feeling like he's also really good at what he does, and then swinging back and forth between wanting to be taken seriously but also not taken seriously as a black man. And so when I looked and I saw that this was written and directed by a white man, I was like, interesting. And there are some critics who don't feel great about that, and they feel that using a black man to communicate that takes away from the story. I still haven't decided how I feel about that, but I did find it surprising because on first watch, I was like, oh, this is like a really meta way for a director to vent their grievances about the industry, right? And then you have Zendaya, who, recovering addict, number one, she kind of feels insecure around the woman who actually played the character, the titular character in the film, who she thinks is based off of her, right? And, he points out that she feels insecure, and, she feels like this movie was based on her life, that he met her when she was 20 years old. She was, strung out, she relapsed, she was in rehab, she cheated on him, all this stuff. And every time we think that the argument has gotten resolved and that they're gonna have like this really intimate sex scene, she can't let go of what she feels. She can't let go. And it's interesting because guys always just want the argument to be over. They just want to move on. We kind of hold on to things a little bit more, and we look at things and feel like, no, that means something. That speaks to this issue, and you said that because of this. Like, we like to kind of connect the dots, and I don't know if we do that intentionally, but we'll connect the dots. And he comments about that of like, why can't a thing just be a thing? Why does it have to blow up to be so much more? Can we just enjoy this night? And I personally, in some moments, felt like I was Marie In some moments, I felt like I was Malcolm. In some moments, I felt like I was an outsider, like I said, looking at something that was too intimate for me to be watching. Like, this felt like something I shouldn't have been privy to. And the way that they started ripping into each other, I think that is a lot of people's worst fear about vulnerability in relationships. When you share the most intimate, vulnerable parts of your human experience with someone, your biggest fear is that they're going to throw that in your face at a later time. It's vulnerability with another person means that you're almost giving a person the keys to destroy you emotionally if they decide to. And you have to have vulnerability and trust, and they have to build upon each other, and mutual respect. Obviously, they have to build upon each other so that when life happens and you argue with a person who you know and who you love and who you know you are capable of ripping apart, you don't do that. And I got so triggered at a certain point, and as I was watching this, I had to take breaks between watching this movie. I had to text some friends, like I had to call a friend, I had to reach out to a friend, I had to FaceTime a friend. Like, I really wanted somebody to come hold my hand, because this was just so much. It was such an intimate, emotionally violent film that never let up. There was no, even the moments where they were joking and it was like this passive aggressiveness, and you knew that Marie was about to lead him right into another argument, it still wasn't enough of a reprieve. It was just like, I am worn out and I'm not even here. And I guess that's the point of entertainment. That's the point of film. That's the point of music, to make you feel something. I was not prepared to feel this on this day. I was not prepared. I don't know when I would ever be prepared to watch something like this, because again, that is a lot of people's biggest fear with being vulnerable. If I'm too vulnerable with you, if I tell you the deepest, darkest parts of me that I don't even like looking at sometimes, how do I know you're not going to use that against me? And I think that's like the greatest hope that you can have for interpersonal relationships, romantic or otherwise, is that you can really see me. You can see the parts of me that I'm even afraid to look at, that I have felt shame about looking at, and you cannot look away, and you can embrace those parts of me even when I don't know how to embrace those parts of me. And there was the part when she was in the bathtub, and he, I mean, just like went in, telling her that she wasn't responsible for this film, that she wasn't the source of his inspiration, and it was an amalgamation of all these other women. And you know, he's cutting her deeply because she cut him deeply, calling him a fraud. One of the worst things that you can say to a creative, because we all have imposter syndrome. We're all terrified that we're going to be found out as not actually being good at this thing for which we get so much praise. So that's just like a deep wound that I'm telling you, if you love a creative, don't ever call them a fraud. Like, even if you feel that, find another way to say it, because damn. And you know that he's only trying to give her back what she gave to him, but then he comes back and he's like, you can't accept that I love you as much as I do because you don't love yourself. And I just want to throw my phone across the room and take a sledgehammer to my TV, because I've absolutely been in that situation with somebody where they kept trying to pull insecurities out of me, like trying to like pass the insecurity on or inject me with it, because that's how they felt about themselves, and they could not believe that I actually loved and cared for them as much as I did. And it's infuriating to try to convince someone that you love them, because ultimately they can't receive it because they don't love themselves as much as you feel like you love them. And it's this just like struggle. And I have also been in relationships where I'm pretty good at communicating how I feel. And when Marie talks about like, you're so good at arguing, I have absolutely had a dude tell me, it's not fair for you to have these kinds of conversations with me about our relationship because you're so much better at communicating your feelings than I am. Huge glaring red flag. Why didn't I run then? It was like, what kind of a thing is that to say? The thing about me is, and this is why I got so triggered by this movie, just a little, like, to get super personal. I text my friend that I actually felt shook because I take I have a lot of friends who love and trust me with some of the most intimate details of their life. I am that person for a lot of people that they know they can tell me anything, and I will support you, and I will never use this against you. I will never tell anybody. I will never bring it up. I'm only going to talk to you about it if you bring it up. And I have been in relationships, romantic relationships, where I hold your vulnerability so sacred and close to my heart, because I know how hard it is for people to be open and talk about those really human experiences. And I would never betray your trust in me with that level of exposure. And I don't think in my relationships that has ever been reciprocated. I don't think anyone has ever held my vulnerability in such a precious way as I held theirs. And I think every time I've been vulnerable with a guy, number one, you can't, again, I tell everybody, please watch Brene Brown's Netflix documentary, because she talks about this so eloquently, but there is no vulnerability without boundaries, right? And I just was not great at boundaries. So I would think that this was like a safe space, you know, because this is the person I'm dating, this is the person I'm dealing with. And even though they didn't give me a whole lot of clues that they were a safe space for me emotionally, I would reveal these, you know, vulnerable things to them, and they would inevitably throw it back up in my face. So this was really, really hard to watch, because I'm quite good with words, especially in an argument. And if I wanted to, I could rip you apart, but I would never do it, because I don't want to say something to you that would wound you in that way, or that I can't take back. I don't want to cause you the pain that you have expressed to me that you are fearful of feeling. And to see two people do that to each other, to see two people break each other down to the absolute bone, like to the white meat. Like, I know Cardi B's Up just came out today, but the line where she said pick a fight with him because niggas love a toxic bitch, did she tell that to Zendaya before they made this move? Because it was just like, oh my God. And I kept thinking, she's gonna just leave him, he's gonna wake up and she's gonna be gone. And that didn't happen. So I was just like, well, what did we watch? What was all of this for? Why were we here for over an hour? What was this about? What was this about? You know, a part of me feels like, and I don't know the dates, obviously, of when they made this, but was this just for anyone who's in quarantine, who is actually taking social distancing serious and looking at their partner and wondering if someone will just end this? Because that's what I kept thinking. Like, will someone just walk out of the woods and end this shit for both of them? If you were looking for a sign that you should leave this relationship, this movie was it. If you wanted act, not out, act, if you wanted act, this was your sign to be act. Like, they were communicating through song. The music was quite good. I absolutely loved that they ended on Outkast Liberation. ATL and all day. But again, what also, you know how I should have known that a white man was behind this movie? That mac and cheese. When she said she was about to make mac and cheese, I was like, girl, you about to make a whole mac and cheese at this hour in a ball gown, in an evening gown? And she whipped out that Kraft. That should have been my first indication that there was whiteness afoot. Anyway, moving along. I can't say that this was good or bad, because the purpose of all art, I think, well, see, some people will argue that some art shouldn't have to have a purpose, that it should just exist. But whatever. Okay, what is art? Are we art? Is art art? Name that show. Drop down in the comments if you know what show that is. If the purpose of art, film, and specifically this movie was to make us feel something, was to make us aware of what solitude can do to a relationship as we're in a pandemic. It's like, it's hitting close to home. Read the room, sweetie. You did that. You did the hell out of that. Hands down, you did that. I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling. This video is about to be as long as this damn movie, and I don't want to be that person. Let me just end this by saying this. Again, I can't say if this was good or bad. This had me shook. This moved me emotionally. And at some points, I just wanted it to end. And it didn't. So do with that what you will. I feel like this is like the movie The Ring. Like in the movie The Ring, where you're only free from it if you make someone else watch it. Performances were great. Stellar performances. I was wondering about the age difference, like if they should have maybe selected someone older than Zendaya. Don't get me wrong, I think Zendaya is a great performer, especially what she did acting within acting. The thing that she did with the knife, spectacular, brilliant. I have no qualms about the performances, the set design, any of that. I just don't fully understand how we watched a whole movie of two people arguing. This seemed like someone's way of telling someone that they didn't want to be with them anymore in a really drawn out way. I don't know what this was, and maybe there was no purpose. I don't know. Y'all help me figure this out, because I don't know what I just watched. I know what I felt. And if that was the point, bang up job. So please, I beg of you, drop down in the comments and let me know what we just watched with Malcolm and Marie. Make other people watch it too, because we can't have gone through this, it's just us. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm so frazzled. Subscribe, share, send me a coin or two if you feel so inclined. Help me continue creating content so that I don't pop out with a movie like that and confuse the shit out of you. So thank you guys for tuning in. We gonna have to get through this trauma together. I might have to talk to my therapist about this tomorrow. And this wasn't even my life. I think I need to journal. Okay, bye y'all.